All right, welcome back to another edition of Drop a Pin. Today we are going to be dropping a pin in none other than Tanzania.
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 No, I don't know how it's actually pronounced.
Oh, I thought it was Tanzania.
I've always called it Tanzania.
You have? And
Yeah.
they say Tanzania?
Tanzania, I've heard people say that. Maybe in the UK. I don't know. At one
Probably
point
just
it was
trying
like
hard.
Tanganyika too, but we'll get to it.
Either way, we're English speakers here, so we're going to say Tanzania is what we're going to go with. We're going to be dropping a pin there with our buddy Chris Long. You might know him from the New England Patriots or the Philadelphia Eagle, multiple-time Super Bowl winner.
Mm-hmm. And multiple-time Mount Kilimanjaro summiter.
Yes, and he talks about that a lot. We're going to get into all the things that he's done in Tanzania, including going and establishing well, doing some really good human people stuff.
Yeah. Check out his charity Waterboys, which we'll be talking about later.
But of course, now that we are a few episodes into this thing, we are going to have to do something that we talked about in episode 1 that we didn't want to do, which was insult people. We didn't want to insult people. We didn't want to have people get mad at us, but it was bound to happen, and it happened because of our third episode, Bhutan.
Yes, I guess we said some things about the king and the queen, which local Bhutanese people did not approve of. Maybe I shouldn't have opened up the episode with that clip, but it wasn't too bad. What, we had like 4 or 5 comments?
There's more than that.
Okay.
So one said, "We're not asking much of you smart guys," which I was glad. They put smart in all caps. They said, "But if you would address someone as king and queen, just show some respect. He's not just some, quote, guy. Our king and queen is not asking you to promote them on their show. So if you want to talk, do it with some respect because we Bhutanese really appreciate it."
Hey, that's fair.
That's fair.
I mean, KB was trying to make him out as just some guy. He said he delivered pizzas for a spot called Mike's at Wheaton College. That is not true, but he did, in fact, go to Wheaton College. I mean, we said he kind of looked like an Elvis impersonator.
Which is not an insult.
No. We didn't speak ill of him. We didn't say he's a bad king.
No.
By all accounts, he's a great king.
Yeah.
He's a dragon king.
I'll be honest, I don't know what kind of quality king he is, but we weren't haters then, but that wasn't the only one. People always said, people also said, "Watch your mouth, we love our dragon king and queen."
Mm, yes, yep.
Yep. People said, "You guys are useless. Don't talk about our king and queen from your dirty mouths."
Yeah, useless talks, jobless people.
Yeah.
We were called jobless people.
But we did get confirmed that night hunting is long lost adventure. I'm from Bhutan, and like you guys have only heard of it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So apologies to the country of Bhutan. I do think he's a good king by king standards.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a lot of really bad kings.
Lots of real. I would say, what do you think percentage-wise over world history, good and bad? I think you got to go 80% bad, at least.
Well, it depends how bad. There's varying degrees of
Not all the
bad.
way to genocide.
Yeah, it's like dictators, I would agree. Probably 80% of dictators are bad. And there's probably 20% of dictators that have actually helped their country.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some that you could say that they did. There's
that'd be actually, I would love to know like who's seen as like the best dictator in history.
You know who was really credited as being good for a long time? Bashar al-Assad. The al-Assads they were supposed to be really good.
Yep. Well, I guess Deng Xiaoping, he was the one that opened up China to the Western world.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're the chairman of China, you're kind of like a dictator as well. Catherine the Great, I've heard. Well, she was a queen, not a dictator, but I heard she was like a pretty solid head of state.
And a revolutionary.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, she was one that really introduced a lot of women to education, where she was one of the first to make it okay and really went after her husband to try to make him like have women be more educated, that she thought that it would be a huge advantage for their country.
Okay, yeah. I think she helped modernize Russia.
Mm-hmm.
People always talk about Marcus Aurelius, who was a Roman emperor. He was the one who invented Stoicism.
Okay.
Have you? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big military guy thing.
Okay.
To get into Stoicism.
It's also a big Dante thing. He's like always posting quotes from
yeah.
Marcus Aurelius. But I mean, I think I agree with stoicism. Not that I really know exactly what that entails, but yeah, he had some good thoughts, at least from what I've seen from the quotes that Dante has posted.
Overall, we're not Dragon King haters by any means.
No. How do you think the podcast has been going overall so far?
I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed people liking to learn a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoyed that I laughed so much on the Clemson episodes that people thought that I was high.
Nice.
The whole time.
And you weren't high, right?
I wasn't. No,
Yeah,
stone cold sober.
You are welcome to get high on the podcast. I don't think I would be great on the mic when I'm stoned. I think I would just lose my train of thought constantly.
I think I would be fun on the pod if I was, but my tongue gets real lazy whenever I'm high.
Okay.
So I kind of like slur my words big time.
Now, you know how most podcasts have their white whale. I think for KFC Radio, it was the dude from It's Always Sunny. What's the name of that actor?
Rob McElhaney, right? Or Glenn Howerson.
Glenn, I think. I think it was Glenn.
I think they got both of them.
Now, historically, I think my 3 white whales all killed themselves.
Okay.
we,
All right.
we got Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah.
He'd be a fascinating guy to talk to.
Which one would you have won? Vegas, right? He's doing Vegas, you think?
Yeah, he could do the Vegas episode. And then we got Anthony Bourdain. Obviously, we could choose any country we wanted for him. I feel like he always said that Vietnam was one of his favorite countries, so maybe we would have had him on for the Vietnam episode.
I almost had my white whale on ZBT that would have been Vietnam too, but then he got brain cancer and died. John McCain.
Oh, geez. Were you in talks with his people?
Yep, he was supposed to come on, and then he got really sick and stopped doing public appearances and
rough.
shit. Yeah.
And then the last of the 3 would be Ernest Hemingway.
Okay, he's from here. Did you know that?
Oh, yeah.
He's from Oak Park.
Oh, cool. Which is, yeah, where you live now.
Mm-hmm.
Ernest Hemingway, yeah, he was a well-traveled guy. He was a big game safari hunter in Africa. He fought in World War I, or was it World War II?
World War One. That's
War
where
I.
For Whom the Bell Tolls takes place in World War One.
One of his books takes place during the Spanish Civil War, which I
Mhm.
think he just volunteered to fight in.
Yeah, that was a big thing back in the day, just going to volunteer for other people's wars.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yep.
Did you know that Ernest Hemingway at his house that he has, it's kind of like a walk-through museum in Oak Park, that there's cats that live there that are a direct lineage of his cats that he had.
That's very cool.
And they hang out like at there's like a little bed for them by his writing desk that he had in his room, and they still hang out there.
Wow. And then he also spent a lot of time in Cuba.
Mm-hmm. And the Keys. He's a big Key West guy.
Cuba and the Keys. I think Hunter S. Thompson enjoyed the Keys as well. Hunter S. Thompson was actually very close friends with Jimmy Buffett. I'm wearing a Jimmy Buffett shirt.
Okay.
Yeah. I got to get down to the Keys. I got to get to Cuba too. Do you know that another white whale who killed himself, John McAfee?
Mm-hmm.
Remember when he was on the run because he had stopped paying taxes for a while?
Mm-hmm.
So at one point he had just gone to Cuba, I think was living on his boat dock somewhere. And I got a DM from John McAfee, like out of the blue. I was never like a huge John McAfee fan. And I got a DM. I'm going to pull it up. Let's see. Yeah, this was March 22 of 2019. Love your work. And I don't have a lot of random celebs reaching out, just like, tossing me a compliment. So I said, appreciate it, man. You should be my guide when I go to South America. And he just said, lol. Because I think he killed a guy in South America. I think he killed a guy in Belize and then went on the run in South America. And
I thought it was Costa Rica.
Maybe it was Costa Rica. And then like a Vice journalist went down and found him or something.
Yeah, because he was holed up on a boat for a long time too, wasn't he?
Yeah, so this was way back in the day. And then when he was on the run because he stopped paying taxes and was like on the run from the FBI or the CIA, that's when he was on a boat. So then I remembered that compliment, and when I saw that he was in Cuba, I reached back out and I was like, you still up for doing an interview this summer? And then he goes, yes, do it, but I am in the Bahamas. I cannot go to the States. So I think maybe first he was in the Bahamas. I said I'd have no problem heading down there if I'd be welcome. And he said, you're welcome. And then
he died.
Well, no, then he moved to Cuba, and I was like, oh, sweet. Cuba would be a way more fun spot to go. Reached back out. He put me in touch with his wife, and I was emailing with his wife. Hey, John, I let Janice know that I could come to Cuba sometime in July for an interview, and she said she thought that would work. I'll get back to her to try to lock down a date. Thanks. And, yeah.
Never got back to you.
Then he was arrested. I think he was maybe in the process of fleeing Cuba on his boat, and the CIA pulled up, so he was put in jail, and, yeah. Apparently killed himself, although he did have a tweet that said, if I ever end up dead in jail, I did not kill myself.
Well, we should tweet that. I think everybody should tweet that.
Yeah.
Just to have it, just to cover your ass kind of situation.
If I ever kill myself, just know it was not a suicide.
That's right.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about Hunter S. Thompson was his daily schedule.
Yeah. No, that's insane.
For those that don't know, do you want me to go through it real quick?
Mm-hmm.
So he would wake up at 3 p.m., start with a little scotch at 3:05, cocaine at 3:45 p.m., and then another glass of scotch. His first cup of coffee at 4 p.m., a little bit more cocaine at 4:15, orange juice at 4:16, cocaine, coffee again, more cocaine, but this time with a little bit of ice scotch to go along with it. More cocaine at 5:45 p.m., and then he just kept doing cocaine, dropping acid, and then he would write high as fuck from 12 midnight to 6 a.m. every day, and then when he was done, he would sit in the hot tub with his scotch doing cocaine until he fell asleep.
And he kept that up for a while.
Yeah.
He did.
I don't know how you could be, so like anytime that I've ever gotten high or done edibles or anything like that, I've always thought I could maybe write something really good when I was super high. No chance.
I think that's why he was doing so much cocaine.
Yeah.
Like Stephen King wrote like a lot of his classics on tons of cocaine and booze.
Oh, did he?
To the point where there's like some books he looks back on. He's like, I don't even remember writing that book.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So
probably Thinner. You got to be real fucked up to think of Thinner and Misery.
I have read Misery, never read Thinner. Now I want to have my Hunter S. Thompson moment at some point. I think he was sent by Rolling Stone to cover, was it the Rumble in the Jungle or the Thrill in Manila?
Thrill in Manila.
Maybe, yeah. One of these big boxing matches. He ended up just taking a bunch of acid in his hotel pool, never even went to the event. And he had been doing that for a while, just fucking off, like Rolling Stone would be like, do this. He wouldn't do it. And that was the final straw. Like he was really tight with the founder of Rolling Stone, but he was like, we can't keep this work relationship, just isn't working out.
They had him do that too, and they got really pissed off on him because I think it was either Rolling Thunder or Sturgis they sent him to, and he was supposed to do this huge expose, and he just decided not to do it. Instead, one year he just got really high the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Respect to a legend, R.I.P.
But hey, from the few times I've done acid, just chilling in a pool, going hippo mode, it's unreal.
Yeah, never done acid either.
So yeah, maybe it's not the best idea to assign someone as our white whale because there's a chance they might unalive themselves. But we can list our top 5 white whales, which are just fat white people we would like to have on the pod at some point.
Okay, yeah, I'm down with that. Who's the first one comes to mind for you?
Number 1 for me would be Action Bronson.
Okay.
One of my favorite rappers.
But you got to say where you want him to drop a pin, too.
I mean, I know he has Albanian heritage, but I don't know if he's ever traveled and spent a lot of time in Albania. I would let him choose.
Okay.
But, yeah, he's had a travel show. Fuck, that's delicious. I think he's going to be a hard get now because he went on a Barstool podcast, KFC Radio, and KFC asked him about the beef that he had with Ghostface Killah.
If you could choose any person, any celebrity to meet to be like the ambassador to aliens.
Prince.
Prince.
Yeah.
What about anybody else from the rap game? Would you send Ghostface out there?
Why would we want to send him there?
Maybe if the aliens are being hostile.
Hey, that's fucking ridiculous, bro. I bet you think that's really cute, right? That you brought that up.
Nah.
Hey, Ghostface.
I
It's fucking stupid.
I was curious
No.
to think to
It's
hear
dumb.
your thoughts
It's dumb.
on the rest of the
It's
of beef in the
ridiculous.
rap game.
No, there's no beef anywhere.
Pusha
with
and
anyone.
Drake.
I don't know about nothing.
No, all right.
Nope.
I feel you. I get that.
I don't
keep,
like beef.
Keep your nose clean out of it. I feel you.
I keep my nose clean and dirty.
What about the wrestling world? You ever you want to dabble in that a little more?
Nah, I'd like to slam you through a fucking wall.
And that was at the point where the beef had already died out. I think it got serious for a bit. Like, Action Bronson was going to one of his friends' funerals, and some Wu-Tang goons showed up there
Oh,
too.
shit, yeah.
And like that whole beef started, if you don't know, it's that people always used to say that Action Bronson sounded like Ghostface Killah. And I think
That he stole his flow.
yeah, and that started to get a little annoying for him. That's like the only thing people would bring up. Oh, you sound just like Ghostface. You're jacking his style. And then at one point he said, Ghostface ain't rapping like this anymore.
Yeah.
Kind of inferring that, no, he's even better than Ghostface. And yeah, that led to some Wu-Tang goons getting really pissed off at him. But it got resolved, and I think he was just mad that KFC was bringing it back up.
Yeah. One for me, white whale would be Tammy from 1,000 Pound Sisters.
Okay. Where I'm gonna assume she lives down south somewhere. Or that,
You're
where that
absolutely
show is
right.
filmed.
She's from, and their main sponsor for the show is the tourism board for Kentucky. So we would definitely have her drop a pin in Kentucky.
Now that's someone we could potentially get.
Oh, I would love it. She's lost so much weight, and she's doing so well right now. So I think getting out there and getting on shows like this could really help her out.
Nice. Is she still on TV at all?
Yeah, they had a new season of 1,000 Pound Sisters. It's going on right now.
But if she's lost weight, is it now like 600 pound sisters? Or
Well, the other one, because it's two sisters, one of them got up. Tammy, that I want to have on the show, she got up to about 710. So it was really like 1,400 pound sisters or like 1,300 pound sisters. And then her sister Amy, also a huge fat. So she would probably come on the show, but she's going through a divorce with her husband Glenn and all kinds of stuff right now. So I think Tammy should come on the show, drop a pin in Kentucky, because I just spent the weekend doing the Bourbon Trail in Kentucky.
Ooh, we should definitely drop a pin there. I've always wanted to do that.
It was awesome.
Don't even know if I've ever. I have been in the state of Kentucky as part of the Appalachian Service Project, where your church up in Massachusetts goes down there and builds homes for people.
Yeah,
But never checked out the bourbon distilleries down there.
it was great. Yeah, we'll drop a pin in Kentucky at some point. Number two for you.
Sam Talent.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a comedian who's blowing up right now. He does a travel show as well called Sam's Wide World. And he's probably one of the other celebs or just like the other public personalities that has endorsed the Wonton Don.
Oh, can I give a shout out to one of your own?
Yeah.
Fucking Wonton Don, dude.
Oh, what a
that
legend
man
that guy
changed
is.
my life.
Really? How
I
so?
fucking watching his content back
Oh,
in
yeah?
the day before he was even Barstool affiliated.
Yeah.
And he was just a dude who liked beer, like bumping around in the world. And I was like, oh, there's a place for me out there.
Yeah.
Like that guy represented like my wanderlust for the world without becoming like a pretentious dick about it.
Yeah.
You know? Like, yeah.
He's totally like, he'll always like inform you if you want to be informed on it, but not like rub it in your face
Right,
or
yeah.
whatever. Like very, very cool guy. Have you ever seen when he got his ears cleaned on the side of the road?
Dude, I've seen it all, dog.
That changed my life.
Yeah.
When I saw that, I was like, that's the kind of shit that can be in your ears.
He said I was the guy that kind of motivated him to start traveling
Really?
and making content. And he's become a friend, so would love to chat with him. He's one of those comedians that chooses shows based on like where he'll be able to travel. So a lot of comedians, they just do the U.S. circuit over and over again, but he's performed in Scandinavia, France, Japan, Italy, I think. I think he's got a show in Iceland sometime over the next year. And like now, whenever he goes to these countries to perform, he'll film a travel show too. So check out Sam's Wide World on YouTube. But yeah, he has said some very nice things to me, which I took to heart. He's also born and raised in Colorado, so he'd be another guy that could talk about Colorado. Hunter S. Thompson could talk a lot about Colorado too.
Did he live in Aspen? No,
Yeah,
where was-
Aspen. He ran as the sheriff of Aspen. I actually had a pinhead send me a DM. I think he lives in the Aspen area now, and he's like, it would be a fascinating place to talk about. I'd be happy to come on and chat Aspen with you guys. And then who else do I have on my list?
I have
I've
Larry
got
the Cable Guy.
Larry the Cable Guy. Yeah, that's like that's a complete character.
Yep.
You know, but that character has, you know, it's worked out well for him.
It has.
And apparently he's a super nice guy, like just a very friendly, down-to-earth guy. Steed Shan, who is my fat friend from Liverpool that I met in China. So, like, I've already done some podcast episodes of him, but he has to come back on and do the Liverpool episode. Maddie Matheson, who was just on Caleb's show, Sunday Conversation. I think he's done a lot of traveling. He's Canadian, too. Maybe he could drop a pin in Canada.
Chris Christie.
Chris Christie for the New Jersey episode. Tim Dillon, I'd have on. He would probably want to. I'd want to talk to him about someplace U.S. focused. Like, he's a lover of the finer things in life. So maybe the Hamptons or Palm Beach.
Now, what about Rosie O'Donnell? We could have her drop a pin in the Garden of Eden because she was in that book about the Garden of Eden where she had her tits out.
I did not know about this.
Yeah.
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 Okay. What was the context of the book?
I don't know. I just remember seeing it when I was in college and being like, oh, damn, I didn't know Rosie O'Donnell's tits look like that.
Were you pleasantly surprised, or
I would say I was very neutral.
okay, neutral? But did they look better or worse, or they looked
I think they look as expected.
okay?
They perform as expected.
All right.
She has like Honda Civic tits.
Okay. I mean, Honda Civic is
Yeah.
like very. What's the word I'm looking for? It's
Reliable. You know what you're going to get.
Yeah. Reliable tits.
That's right.
Yep. And then, last but not least, Andrew Zimmern.
Okay.
Do you know who that is?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. He was the host of Bizarre Foods.
He's a huge Goo Goo Duck fan.
Oh, Geoduck? Or?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know how it's pronounced, but those are those like enormous clams.
Yeah, that look like dicks.
Yeah. They're like the size of horse cock.
And you pull it out and it leaks
Mm-hmm.
from the end. I saw a
yeah.
show where he went fishing for those.
I would definitely have him on. I think it's wild because there was a time when it was him and Anthony Bourdain were probably the two biggest stars of the Travel Channel.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them had been addicted to heroin at one point in their life.
Pretty common for chefs, though, right? Have a
Yeah.
drug thing.
Yep. And I think Andrew Zimmern was actually homeless for a bit.
Shit.
He lives in Minnesota, and Chef Donnie's friend saw him in the grocery store and was like, "Oh my God, it's Andrew Zimmern!" And he was like, "So," and then just walked away.
Wow.
But I think he's a nice guy. I think just he didn't want to be accosted by fans in the grocery store.
Now, what about if we got Action Bronson and Leah Dunham to both do a Brooklyn show together?
If they wanted to drop a pit. Well, Action Bronson is from Queens.
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
Mm.
A Queens episode would be great.
We don't want to start any beef with them.
No. I mean, Action Bronson, if you want to come on and squash the beef with Barstool, this is the place to do it. I think the reason he was in our office that day is he was meeting with Erica Nardini and Dave about potentially moving his show to Barstool because he wasn't happy with the arrangement he had with Vice at the time.
Yeah, because it was you smoke and cook, right? Or smoke and eat, something like that. I think it was marijuana centric.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. He had the Action Bronson watches Ancient Aliens show where they would just smoke and watch Ancient Aliens.
Seems
And
like a good time.
Yeah, I think he had a weed show, but yeah, I think there were people in the Vice office complaining about the smell, and I think he brought like a live goat into the office one time, and that was like people were like, "What the fuck?" I don't think that would be a problem if you worked at Barstool and you brought a live goat into the office.
At least not on Fridays. I think you have
Yeah.
Goat Fridays.
Goat Fridays. I also want to reiterate, we aren't only trying to have white people on this podcast, but just
No, fat black people would be great too.
yeah. But I'm not going to call them black whales. That somehow sounds worse.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, okay. All right. We can also have Asian whales on.
Yeah. I would actually love that. We'd get a sumo wrestler on here.
Yeah. I mean, Pong Zai. He's a larger Asian guy I would love to have on.
Yeah. All right, so now that we know who we're going to have for our white whales, let's get into the white whale that we got today, who's not a whale at all. It's our good buddy, Chris Long. We're pumped for you today on this episode of Drop a Pin because we have a former NFL player who I think his dad could possibly be one of the most handsome Hall of Famers of all time. Unbelievable. Because I was in the Marine Corps for a long time. Flat tops were a big deal. And I feel like your dad's flat top, Chris, was the flat top to end all flat tops. And every enlisted leader in the military wanted to have your dad's style flat top.
Is that, I always wanted to ask, is that stolen valor?
No, we encourage it. Yeah, he's an absolute legend in the game. Like, there legit was. Have you ever been told this? In Okinawa, there was a picture in Okinawa, Japan, at the barbershop on base that had the different styles of military haircuts that you could get. So you could have like a low fade, a medium fade. The flat top picture was a picture of your dad.
No way.
I swear to God, yeah.
Oh, that's pretty damn cool.
But
yeah.
We're not just
it also reinforces that military guys have like the best sense of humor.
True. Yeah, yeah. So Chris Long is here with us, everybody. Chris Long.
We're not just excited to have him because he has a handsome dad.
True. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I'm looking at the Hall of Fame right now to see if there's anybody more handsome, but that's going to take a while. So
yeah.
He's up there though. The guy has not aged.
We're very excited to have you on because you have some incredibly cool travel experiences. And it was because of those experiences that the first time I ever reached out to you, it was by Instagram DM November 15th of last year. And the text was, can you come to Nairobi December 12th to play for Uganda against Kenya in American football? It's high school level ball. We just really need a dub. And you were nice enough to respond. You were like, man, I wish. Looks fun as hell.
It did look fun. And honestly, like, I would love to go back and play football, but with the stakes not so high. So that would be, a perfect situation for me to see how washed I am. But I had so much fun watching you and Billy over there. And just kind of the way it went down and knowing the area, knowing the region, and obviously hoping the game grows and seeing guys like that never played pick it up. It's a lot of fun. And so I just kudos to y'all for capturing some of that content.
Yeah, they absolutely love the game out there. And the reason I thought of you first to come out there is because you have a lot of experience in Africa. Can you tell us a little bit about that? When did you first visit the continent?
Yeah, so it had to be like 2013 maybe, something like that. I hadn't traveled a lot in my life. I'd been to London once because my dad played there when he was a player in the 80s. We went out there and I got a cool picture of me on my dad's lap outside some pub with Bill Pickell and a couple of his teammates, and he's wearing one of those Mountie hats and like they obviously were having a ball. And having gone through it, having played in London as a player, you're kind of reliving what it's like to do that. But I've never really traveled. And so, it was kind of the same time in my life where I had done a lot of work off the field. My wife and I, my teammates and I, but quietly kind of like I was real stubborn about this. I didn't want to be the charity guy. Not like the charity guy. I love doing good work, but I didn't want to become the mascot for, altruism or some bullshit like that. Like, I like to, I know there's a lot of people that probably think the opposite of me because, and that's fine. That's the cost of doing what I've done, or what I've been able to do with other people is like, I just decided at some point, number one, I needed to travel. I needed to see the world. I was almost 30 years old. I was in the prime of my football career, but I felt kind of like, at some point I'm gonna have kids. I'm gonna be a little bit more stuck in the mud. Let me get out here and see the world a little bit. And also at that same time, I was trying to figure out, do I want to start a foundation? And this stuff was kind of just swirling around in my head. And at that time, Jeff Fisher was the new coach of the St. Louis Rams. I met him in his office. They had just paid me. I got my big deal, kind of earned that the year before he came in, and I'm up in his office and he's like getting to know me, and I'm looking at his desk and he's got this picture of him climbing a snow-capped mountain. And I'm like, what is this? Like Switzerland? Like, coach, what's going on? And he's like, no, this is East Africa. This is the roof of Africa. This is Tanzania. This is Mount Kilimanjaro. I said, what the hell are you doing over there? He said, I was taking some wounded veterans with Wounded Warriors, me, Teddy Bruschi, and a bunch of wounded veterans. And I said, man, that looks like a cool mountain. I'd like to climb it one day because I'm pretty outdoorsy. I like trekking and climbing, and I live in, off the Blue Ridge here in Virginia. And so he's like, yeah, it'd be really cool. You should do it one day. I was like, I'd like to do it this next off season, if that's okay. He's like, well, we did just sign you to that big deal. I don't know if there's something in that contract about that. I'm like, let me read the fine print.
Yeah.
And I did, and there was nothing. So I went next off season. I'll never forget, we played Seattle in the last game, and there must have been some tourism thing that inexplicably they had at Quest Field these big banners with with Tanzania on them, like hanging over the side of the stands. And there was one with like a big elephant. It was like Ngorongoro crater and all this shit. And one had Kilimanjaro. And I had this trip planned in a couple months to go with a former teammate, James Hall, to climb Kili. And it just was so like, wow, man, I'm doing the right thing. It just feels like something about this trip is right place, right time for me. And we went over, we climbed Kili, 19,341 feet, had a blast, got our asses kicked a little bit, and came down, and I'm drinking an IPA, Tanzanian IPA, and it only took one or two. I always tell people after you get off that mountain, and we're buzzing, and somebody walks into the bar and they say, Chris. And I'm like, who the fuck? I'm like, there's nobody that knows who I am here. Like, no chance. I'm in a bar in Tanzania. And it's Joe Buck.
What?
Yeah, and you haven't heard this story?
No.
So because every time I tell it, I'm like, I've told it a million times. But Joe Buck walks in, and I'm like, after we got over there, like, what the frick are you doing here, dude?
Get another hair transplant.
Yeah. And by the way, guy looks great, living his best life. So yeah, Tanzanian clinic.
That's where they go. Turkey and Tanzania, baby.
He comes back with like different color hair on his head. So, anyways, Joe goes over there with this guy named Doug Pitt, who is Brad Pitt's brother, and he's the Goodwill ambassador to Tanzania. And, I guess back in the day when Brad and Angie were together, they did a lot of good work over in Africa, combating poaching and all sorts of stuff, clean water, educational equity stuff. And I got talking to Doug. He was real cool. And they told me they were going on this water project the next day. And I'm not going to lie, like my flight left before they were going, but I probably wouldn't have gone anyways because I wasn't thinking about it. I was out drinking, and we had just done what we came to do. But I was really enthralled with what they talked about, which was kind of the pragmatism of getting into the water space. And for me, that's where it all started. I went home and kind of brainstormed, thought about, hey, like, listen, sometimes life just hands you the answer. I'm sitting here thinking about how I wanted to make a difference, where I want to make a difference. As a traveler and not having traveled a lot before, I had such a beautiful experience in Tanzania, meeting people that I just was blown away by. And, some of them were facing challenges that were pretty apparent to me, but they didn't make it a big deal. And they were pretty stoic and went about their life. And like, you meet Maasai tribesmen that speak like 5 languages and shit. And they're so resourceful. Mm-hmm. It's so much more useful than me. And I was just blown away by the whole culture there. And maybe if I'd traveled anywhere, I'd have the same feeling, but I just wanted to do something good there. And having talked to Doug and Joe in that bar, the seed was planted. I started Waterboys basically a few months later, went back on our first trip the next off season to go and scout out some locations for our first well. And we hit our first well, and now we moved to 1 million people served goal, where in the beginning we were trying to do 32 large solar powered wells for 32 teams. And we have moved to a people served goal. We've surpassed that goal. And now we're over halfway to our goal, 1 million people served. So, it's been a long time and we've just been plugging along, but I've spent a lot of time over in East Africa, not only enjoying the climb, which we do almost every year. Well, we do it every year. I do it almost every year with veterans and former athletes, which is a lot of fun. And we've had some great names and people, lifetime friends that I've met, and the vets, Chaps, like they're the folks that, and I'm not blowing smoke, you know this, like you want somebody to get some shit done, tell a vet what you need done. And, you know, like that's been the most impressive thing to me. And the most fruitful thing coming out of this is doing this Conquering Kili climb is we've got vets, men and women that come back and immediately they're beating down my door to figure out what they can do next. And, you know, our group, we got group texts that are blowing up all year long, athletes, vets, Haloti Nada, Green Berets, you know, Jason Kelsey, like just a real melting pot of people that want to make a difference. But that's why I always say, like, the vets, it's not a charity thing where we're bringing, you know, Elliot Ruiz or Fred Dumar or Kirstie Ennis up, who Kirstie was the first above the knee amputee female to climb Kili, and she did it with us. She's a total
awesome. Yeah, she's a
she's
fucking beast.
She's the fucking best. And we just floated a river 2 months ago in Montana because we have this reunion every year that I host, and all, you know, vets will come back and the whole thing, and the athletes come back. So, but I always say this is the key thing is not charity. We're not doing something for the vets. The vets are doing something for us. And that's what they want to do. They want to lead. And so I've just been, because when you do a foundation, you can't be like, oh, we do clean water, education. You know, we work with veterans. Like people are like, so I've found ways to just work in the things that I've always liked to do into this one cause. And there's a lot of overlap with education and working with veterans, which has been really great for our organization as a whole. And we got board members and people like Nate Boyer. He's the guy who started with me. I got to take
another great guy. Yeah,
man. Like we talked yesterday. I love that guy, man. I got some lifelong friends out of that thing. And I got lifelong friends on the ground in Tanzania as well. So love that place. And we've done a lot of work there.
Something about Waterboys I love is that you guys had a very concrete goal. You weren't like, I'm going to start a charity that's going to end world hunger, or like that's just going to solve the water crisis in Africa. You were like, no, we're going to build 32 borehole wells, which is going to provide clean water to 500,000 to 1 million people.
Yeah.
And that's something you can actually like, you can do, and people can see it happen, and it has a very concrete effect. It's not abstract at all.
That's what I like. Yeah, that's it. I'm a little pragmatic. Like I want donors to say, hey, where's my money going? How far is it going? And I also think, like, when you think about, there's a lot of great causes, and I'm not here to be like, this one's better, but I will say, like, for me, this one works because you know exactly what it's doing. And clean water in a community isn't just like, hey, young kids are dying less. I mean, which would be in and of itself enough, right? Like diarrhea kills in East Africa. Okay. Waterborne illness is everywhere. We went to a school where, you know, we brought some of the Marines out there and this guy, Elliot Ruiz, is a great buddy of mine, just came through just stopped by and saw me last week, my buddy from Philly, and he's been all over the world and he's seen some shit. Right. And so we go to this school and the kids lead us down this ravine to show us where they get the water from. And it's a creek outside of Arusha. Now, Arusha, as y'all know, there's a lot of money flowing through that place. Safaris, Kili, the whole thing. And to think that there's a primary school with a couple thousand kids 5 miles outside of the city, and they're drinking water out of a creek in a ravine that's got gasoline film running through it, that is a problem. Yeah. And the kids are just not a second thought scooping that water up. And Elliot, and he's okay with me telling this story, he's tearing up. He's like, I cannot believe this. I just can't believe it. So just that alone is enough to get people to want to put these deep borehole wells in at schools and in communities, but also improvement in agriculture. Women and girls' lives improve because, you know, if you know anything about the water crisis around the world, most of that burden going to gather water, often unclean water, for your family, for the community, falls on the shoulders of women and girls. So women and girls are minimized. They're not in the community. They could be drivers in the community. They could be, you know, force multipliers, but instead they're doing this menial task, which often dead ends at a poor water source. Like we've gone to a lot of these villages and animals are defecating in the water source. Like thoughtlessly, kids are drinking out of this stuff. And like I said, it's not because people aren't smart. It's because there's no other choice. These Maasai tribesmen speak more languages than me. They have to do more when it comes to just being resourceful and leading their communities than me, but yet they have to accept this as a water source for their children and for their community. And so that alone for me is enough. But there are conflicts that have been extinguished by the provision of clean water. There are conflicts that have arisen from, situations where two tribes don't have water. That's going on all over the world today. Water is a really scarce resource.
And it's
in this,
also it's something that we take for granted in the U.S.
yeah.
Like you can live in Manhattan and have some of the cleanest tap water in the world. And I have friends in the U.S. that only drink bottled water, and I'm like, dude, you gotta take advantage of what we have.
Yeah, fluoride turns out to be good for you and your teeth. Yeah.
Okay, 'cause I've heard, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think you're right, and that's what makes it a tough sell. That's what makes it a tough sell stateside. Number one, like we have no. I mean, just for somebody to travel and hey, don't brush your teeth in the tap water. That's jarring for an American,
Yeah.
but that's the reality if you travel a lot. Okay. There's also the thoughtless provision of clean water through a tap and that sort of thing. And just the amount of bottled water that's just floating around in this country.
Dude,
it makes
our
it.
office.
Yeah. Right. We waste a lot of it. It sits in people's cars and shit. And then you can't drink it anymore because of the plastic, but don't get me started. But the whole thing is, it's a hard sell in that way, but it's also a hard sell for Americans because we have a lot of problems in America. And, a lot of people, usually their response is, well, what are we doing here? We also do some domestic work as well. The dollar doesn't go as far in the provision of clean water domestically. We've done a lot of single family homes. We are putting in filtration systems in schools. We want to work on Navajo Nation. We've been talking about doing that for a couple of years now, trying to get the red tape cut to do that sort of thing. We want to help out here stateside too. And it's also illuminating for people to realize that there's a few million people in the United States without clean water. So to y'all's point, it's a foreign concept.
Back to the Kilimanjaro hike. Does that take about 7 days round trip up top and back to the bottom?
Yeah, no, I've always tried to push it. So, Nate Boyer did it in like 2.
Whoa.
Oh, God,
Okay.
Nate. Be more of a Green Beret. Good
Shut up,
God.
Green Beret.
Jeez, save some more for the rest of us, Nate.
Yeah.
Wait,
but
he did 2 as in 1 day up and 1 day down?
Something like that. Like, the very first year where I couldn't go, it was just him and another dude, and the other dude dropped out like a half a day. And he was like, all right, well, I'm going to finish. I came all this way and I'm going to do it on my time. And he was up and down in like 2.5 days or something, it's kind of crazy. I also know of people that have done it in like 1 day. They're crazy. Wim Hof, that guy did it like in underwear, like in a day or something. So I'm not trying to make this thing seem like it's Everest, but for most people it is a kick in the ass. And like, it's been a kick in the ass for me. Maybe 2 out of the 5-6 times I've gone, like a third of the time. One time I had to put on oxygen. And, it can be a real bear at the end. I mean, most of it is mental, and most people aren't used to being outside. Like Rob Ninkovich, who's I would say is badass and all that.
Yeah.
He played for the Patriots, my boy. And he's a lot of fun. And I was his tent mate when I took him. And the first night we zip up the tent, he's like, "See, Long, I've never slept outside before." And I'm like, "Oh, this is going to be fun." I can remember the last night before summit night, which is real moody because like you get to like 17,000 feet at Kibo Hut and there's barely any vegetation. There's really no animals, just these loud ass birds, these black birds. And they're just like, they might be crows. I don't know. And it's like really the whole thing is foreboding. You're waiting until like 1 a.m. to climb the last 2,500 in the dark. And it's a bitch. The last 3,000 feet is a bitch. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a Green Beret. We had Green Berets turn around, come back and do it again, by the way, the next year. But we've had some real badasses not make it up to the top. It's just a crapshoot whether or not the altitude's going to mess with you. But Rob, the last night, is listening to like Queen in the tent. And he's like in this state of depression, like I'm going to die, like, so sometimes you have to deal with the fragility of these athletes, man. One time Vince Young came and, like guys will sign up and I'll have these meetings, like get your shit ready, have your Diamox, like make sure you have a piss bag, like all this stuff. just all the little like insider tips. One of them is like break your boots in.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Vince Young rolls up, unpacks his bag. We're at like 7,000 feet. We're starting out, right? And it's day one, and we watch him unpack his bag, and the boots, he takes the paper out of the inside of the
no. Oh
Some
no.
blisters.
We're just like,
Blisters,
yeah.
yeah.
You just never. Some people, guy last year, actually a vet a couple years ago, we busted his chops about this. We were at a damn a school doing a water ceremony, and these kids bring him ice cream, and he's like, "Yeah, fuck it, I'll have some ice cream." And he predictably gets the shits for like 5 days, and it sets in on the mountain, and he's got just the worst stomach bug. Not to mention, he got a boil riding around in the damn truck for the safari truck, because you know how far things are in Tanzania, and it's hot, and we had to basically do field surgery. One of the vets had to do field surgery on him. It was like going to become sepsis.
Like
so
lance it open?
yeah, like, and you know, with the vets, everybo's cheering and laughing.
Hell yeah.
And the athletes too. It's
I was
just,
just thinking that sounds like a great damn time. Yeah.
we had, even through the crazy shit that happens, we have a lot of fun, and like we try to make sure everybody gets to the top. Not everybody gets to the top every year, but it's a great climb, and it takes 6-7 days, and the routing is different. You can take a different route depending on who you are. We have a lot of amputees, so we have to take a certain route, but if you're a civilian and you want to climb, like Lemosho is a great one. You get to go through the rainforest. There's 5 zones, like high desert, rainforest, all this shit. You go through 5 different zones getting up that mountain. It's real cool.
When I went up to Everest Base Camp, I was taking Diamox, which is a pill you take. It helps with the altitude. But I was only going up to base camp. For the people I was with that were actually going to the top, they were told not to take it because it can take over a month to climb Everest, because you got to go up to base camp 1, then back down, camp 2, back down, camp 3, back down. So it can be like a 2-month endeavor. And they're like, if your body becomes reliant on Diamox and you forget to take it one day and you're up at camp 3, you could die.
You could die.
But do most of the people you hike with take it to Kilimanjaro because it's just a week-long endeavor?
Yeah, I think most people do. I can't remember the last time how much I took of it. One year I had a guy, and be careful who you listen to. He's like, yeah, just take more. Just take more. Take a little frog juice, you know, those Navy SEAL frog juice packets. Take some frog juice. Take some Diamox. Just pop more of it. And what it is, as I mentioned, it's a diuretic. It's, you know, it's going to dehydrate you. So, you know, it's going to make your altitude sickness initially feel better, but there's a point of diminishing return wherein like your head attacks itself, and like you can't sit down and stand up without it feeling like your brain's going to explode. Like that's what altitude sickness feels like.
Yeah, it's
just
you're giving it to yourself basically.
Yeah, you're speeding it up by dehydrating yourself if you're not careful. So I've had it bad where, you know, like, and I've been to the top where I jogged to the fucking top. I was in great shape. I felt great, you know, was in great spirits. And then one year I'm sitting down every 20 feet, then having to stand up. And every time I stood up on top of this mountain, it was like the worst pain I've ever felt. And like just the feeling of nausea and low energy is, hey, last time I projectile vomited at the top and I was doing great. So like, no matter what, you're not going to feel great on top of that mountain. And Jason Kelsey and I famously got in a little spat. Only time we've ever gotten in an argument was he came down to the base below, and I had beaten him down there, and he was coming down the hill, and I'm waiting outside the tent to hug him and be like, welcome, like, you know, welcome down. We did it, which I do with most of the people. And Kelsey just storms right past me. And he's like, this is fucking hard. You didn't say this would be so fucking hard. I feel terrible. I almost died up there. And like, he's perking out in the fucking tent. And I sent everybody out of the tent. And I'm like, hey, dude, are we too tired to fight right now? Because I feel like this is what's going to happen if it continues. And I went around the room. I was like, hey, Connor Barwin, did you get the fucking email? Did you look at the brochure? Did you look at the brochure? Did you know it was going to be hard? And they were all like, yeah, I knew it was going to be hard. It's 20,000 foot mountain.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's frustration. There's puking, there's altitude sickness. But at the end of the day, people do it for a good cause. And when you come down, we've got this great brotherhood that kind of lasts a very long time. And in the case of Kirsty, sisterhood. And we've had a few really awesome, strong women that have kicked ass up the side of the mountain too. So,
yeah. So you're a world-class athlete and still had some trouble. Like, how do you think Big Cat would do if he tried to climb Kilimanjaro tomorrow?
Oh, I mean, one day, I think he makes it.
Before
Just
he turns back?
Yeah, and it's not because of the physical part of it, which matters, but I just don't think he's got a dog in him. He's got a powerful brain, but he's never I don't know that he's ever testing himself that way.
He climbed an Everest equivalent.
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
like
he did.
Andrew Brandt.
Yes.
Where?
Well,
that's where they came from.
Yeah, there was a tweet where that guy was saying he's like, I climbed an Everest equivalent because he hiked the length of the hike.
Oh.
Which is just an absurd thing to say. So then
that was hilarious.
What about Frank walks Killy?
Frank walks Killy, man. Hey, who knows?
That'd be a good one.
Anything is
If
possible.
Frank walks to Killy, I think Frank could walk Killy.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll just walk Frank across the continent and then right up the mountain. But we need to get him in shape to get up the mountain.
So outside of Kilimanjaro and being able to set up some of the water sources, what are your favorite things about Tanzania just as a country?
I would say just honestly, the vibe, man. The people are so carefree. It really is. It's the hostility that strangers can show sometimes in the United States, each other. That's just, and maybe it's because I'm in Zungu, which means traveler, white man.
Yeah.
Zungu,
and
yep.
They're like, hey, man.
Billy in Africa, the silverback bazungu.
But that's funny. But I just, more than anything, just a lot of smiles, man. There are people that are dealing with certain challenges, and they're very stoic in the face of those challenges. And that's what made me fall in love with the place and made me feel like, hey, you might not know where the clean water source is. It might be a question day to day, but I loved meeting people day to day that had huge smiles on their faces and seemed like I've traveled a few places in Europe. I've traveled a few places post football, and I got to say, it's one of the most friendly places I've been. And on top of that, the natural beauty, which obviously pulls a lot of people in Ngorongoro Crater, some of these other safari spots, which I think the crater is the best. I don't know if you get a chance to go to that crater, but it's it's like CGI. You descend down in this valley and it's what it sounds like. It's a giant fucking crater. And the walls are really hard to even contextualize how big the walls of this crater are. I couldn't tell you. And it's like Narnia in there.
There's animals.
Yeah, there's animals. It's like Noah's Ark just ran up on shore there.
Really?
Shit.
And they're just hanging out with each other, like in the movies.
Yep.
You got rhinos and hyenas right here, and
like Bruce Almighty in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Which, by the way, was filmed outside my hometown. I think. Isn't there a dam scene in Bruce Almighty?
Yeah.
So that dam's 10 minutes from my house. I was there last week.
People talk shit about that movie, but I like it.
I don't have an opinion.
All right, that's fair.
But I don't have an opinion
But
either.
I just love kind of everybody's always singing, and we'll be the porters when we're going up the mountain. Every time we get to camp, it's all 50 dudes that are tasked with carrying bags, setting up tents, the whole thing. They're rock stars. They're the real badasses. These guys half my size, got a big bag on their shoulders, just walking up the mountain in flip-flops. Okay, they go up, they come down, they go up, they come down. We do it once and we're posting on Instagram look how cool I am.
The big NFL guys, meanwhile, the smaller dude is doing it a million times.
Just dominating. And you get up there and there's this awesome video of when Kelsey got up there, And these guys always sing. They just love to like put on a show. They're like just showmen, you know what I mean? And they don't have to do this shit. I mean, it's good for the customers and shit, but like they really are into it. I've been on enough of these climbs to know these dudes love performing and singing and getting together and like partying. And when Kelsey went up there and he was singing like, I don't know, Living on a Prayer or something, seeing these guys singing with Jason Kelsey up at like 12,000 feet. It's just a vibe, man, that people from Tanzania bring that is unlike any place I've been. And the natural beauty for me is second to none. And also some really cool, like touristy shit. I mean, obviously, like going to their markets, getting to like walk around in a place like that, the hustle, the bustle. It's crazy, man. And going to buy like Tanzanite. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen like Tanzanite, but if you ever go to Tanzania, I would put if you're a dude, like get your wife or significant other some Tanzanite. It's like super cool. Just some of the markets there are
insane. Is that a type of rock?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's kind of like purpley. They got a bunch of malachite there, obviously, which is really cool. But like the Tanzanite, you can only get it in Tanzania. And actually, they have a really cool place, the cultural center there in Arusha, which sells like a lot of dope art. I got a painting there from a local artist in my bedroom. It's incredible. And some of the jewelry and shit is just insane. So I would recommend the trip. And I've never been to Zanzibar. And I heard Zanzibar is like super cool.
Have you ever been to the coast at all?
Nah, dude, because when I'm there, I'm climbing, I'm visiting villages, and I'm in schools, and then I'm out. So maybe when the kids get a little older.
Yeah.
But yeah, so.
Yeah, when I was at the Olympics, I met an Irish rugby player who just bought a house on the Tanzania coast, and he's going to spend maybe 3 months of the year there and then just Airbnb it out to friends and family the rest of the year, and it looks beautiful.
Damn.
Dude, I bet that's incredible. And yeah, bucket list for me, but supposedly you definitely got to take your malaria medicine if you go to the coast like Zanzibar or something like that. As a traveler's note for people that are going to Tanzania, like Arusha, I don't take it, just so you know, just because it is so high altitude. And I spent
mosquitoes.
Yeah, not really. But like if you go down to the coast, I had a buddy that was there and fell asleep on the beach, woke up in the morning and like, yep, I have malaria.
Yep.
Like,
holy shit.
Yep.
Yeah, you
like
gotta be
Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the weirdest food you had while in Africa? Or drink?
I ate goat, I went to a Maasai ceremony for this well we were doing, and I'm pretty sure they killed the goat 2 hours ago. And it was not prepared the way I would have had goat. Not saying I have goat every day, but the customs are a little different. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of pressure to eat the goat as one of the main dudes with this water charity. And so I had to eat the goat. But the goat had some flies on it, and the goat was room temp, and the goat tasted like the goat was cooked. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Still a lot of blood in there. Goat.
Yeah.
Goat is a good meat, though.
I don't mind goat at all.
No,
I really don't. But when I'm over there, I'd prefer to get it like at the hotel. Like,
right. Yeah.
Yes.
Up the steamer.
With a nice sear.
Yeah.
No one loves a room temp goat.
Yeah.
No, room temp goat's tough. Now I know you've probably eaten some crazy shit over there.
Yeah, I've had antelope. I was at a place that was.
Yeah.
I was at a place serving zebra. I think I got to have some zebra, warthog.
How's zebra?
Zebra is good, and it's crazy. You can get a horse steak in Japan, and it tastes a lot of like
horse sashimi too.
Yeah, I also had raw horse in Japan. The raw horse was way too good for what it is.
What?
It is delicious.
Way too good.
Really?
Yeah.
It's served
and it's fucked up to say it here, but you're like, nah, it's good, man.
It's good. It's served exactly like sushi, just a slab of raw horse on a little bit of rice.
You'd think it'd be really tough, but it wasn't.
Listen, I mean, norms are norms, but if I was to go over there, I'd probably try some raw horse after hearing that.
Oh, yeah, you got to. Get those gains. Those horse gains, baby.
Horse gains.
And then when horse is cooked, it tastes a lot like beef.
Yeah.
But
oh, really?
Yeah. I
No
don't want
way.
my boss to hear that clip though, just because he loves horses maybe more than humans.
My favorite
Really?
too. Yeah, he does. Yeah,
Oh, he's a horse guy?
big time.
Portnoy,
He's a horse guy?
Huge
diehard horse
animal guy overall.
Yeah, yeah,
Horse people in general have kind of a stigma.
They do.
yeah.
They do.
Probably
Usually
deserved.
it's just the gals, but I think also the guys maybe a little bit. Horse guys.
And then, do the villagers in Tanzania have like a local homemade beer that they drink?
Yeah, actually they did describe something like that, but I wasn't a taker. I did smoke some pot that I did smoke some Tanzanian pot. That was pretty decent. It was good.
Yeah.
It was good. Now, you can get a lot of trouble for that over there. I was actually up at like 14,000 feet sitting on a rock feeling like dog shit. And I smelled something and I was like, no way. Like, no way, dude. And I get down off the rock and walk around the corner and these two porters are just chiefing. And I'm like, how are y'all doing that up here?
Yeah.
It was higher than 14. I think it was like the last stop. So I passed that up there, but then I bought some down at this market just to get adventurous, and it was pretty good weed. Another thing I did is I gave one of the porters some Kodiak Wintergreen, and that dude was buzzing, dude.
Oh my god.
This is pre-Zen for me.
Yeah.
Oh, dude was buzzing. I've never had any of the hooch, but they got some good local beer though, like real good local beer.
And would you guys ever have a beer up top to celebrate, or you'd wait until you were back down?
I think I had a beer maybe once up there, like a pull of some liquor, but it's a lot of people imagine stuff they're going to do up there and they don't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I can remember the first few years that I can't sleep without smoking pot. So the first few years I was like, yeah, I'm going to smoke pot on the mountain. I'm going to rip my pen hard and like the whole thing. You're too uncomfortable at that altitude to do it. So I'd come home and I'd feel like great, like crazy clear-headed.
Yep.
It's like the only time you got to abstain. But yeah, I've had plans of stuff I was going to do on the mountain, but you're too damn tired when you get to the top. You just want to go, you want to come back down. And then oftentimes when you come back down, everybody's in the lobby drinking and I don't know how they're doing it. I'm in the room, man, because you're just so wiped when you get down. You lose so much weight. You know, you're on your feet. You haven't slept well. It's hard to celebrate that thing the way you want to.
Yep.
I would say like the Sherpas in Nepal and the porters in Tanzania, they're just a different breed, because even up at Everest Base Camp, some of the Sherpas were just chain smoking cigs up there the whole time.
How high is that Everest Base? 15?
It's higher than that. I think you might be close to 20,000 at that point, but it could just
Probably
be
like
17. Yeah. Look that up.
Everest Base Camp altitude.
Oh, they almost 17.5.
17.5.
Okay, and then the top of Kilimanjaro is 20,000.
19,341. How'd you feel up there at 17.5? Pretty good?
I was doing okay. I was taking Diamox, which helped a lot.
Yeah.
And I was sleeping so well up there. My cameraman was not, because he just had I think he bought a fake sleeping bag. So he would be in the sleeping bag and start to sweat a lot. And then he would get out of the sleeping bag, and then all that sweat would kind of just like freeze on his body.
Is that John Kelly?
That was Michelangelo. And he was just going back and forth. But yeah, Michelangelo had a weed pen up at Everest Base Camp. So I was taking some rips.
Yeah, you were, and I just think like sleeping is the hardest thing up there. I mean, for a lot of people, so it's good that you're able to sleep. Probably means you could do Kili easy. You know, so maybe one of these years we'll get y'all boys up there.
I would love.
That'd be great.
Love to climb Kili. I think another guy, Paul Bissonette. I'm sure you've heard.
Yeah,
of him.
yeah.
He hit me up, and he's been hiking a bunch in Vancouver, and he was like, "Dude, we got to do some hikes together." I bet I could easily convince him to do Kili too.
Why don't you guys put together a team for one of these upcoming years and do a little fundraising? We get y'all up the mountain as a crew or something.
It'd be sick.
That would be so much fun. I would also like to film some content around the wells, because it's like, say if I spent a week actually helping build the well, and then
Yeah.
people see that content, like I think they'd be so much more likely to donate when they're seeing exactly where their money is going. They're like, oh, I can help build one of these wells and help this many people.
Yeah, I think it's good for people to understand like the numbers and everything. We try to keep people aware of that stuff. I mean, you talk about $53,000 is it's 45 is what we said for a long time, but when you add in the admin, it really can range from 45 to 53 because these are deep borehole wells. We have a drilling partner. The geologists aren't always going to find groundwater immediately. So I've sat around a project for a few days waiting for them to hit water just to get a shot, right? Like the thing you're talking about.
Yeah.
The storytelling element, which is huge. And like, we're just waiting and waiting. And, so the costs are variable, but we cap it at 53. And, you're talking about 5,000 to 7,000 people drinking clean water for a generation from a well that if you draw from it equitably, and that's the nice thing about it, we do have in-country partners who are able to kind of steward the recipients of the clean water so that they know how to draw from it and who's responsible for that, and how to divvy water up equitably, not overdraw, how to work the agriculture end of it. I think that's the key, is like, we're not just putting a well in and just fucking off, which there's nothing wrong with that. Like, a lot of people will do a one-off kind of deal, a lot of hand pumps, and they work for a long time, and a lot of them do work, but a lot of them don't. And so what you get is a lot of inoperable wells that don't have, like, the person, you come do a well for somebody that passed away, or you want to honor somebody, and then you come back stateside, and if you don't have correspondence with the community that you put that well in, or even if you do, what can you do when that hand pump breaks?
Yeah.
So the solar power wells are really, really, really beefed up and kind of fit the function of what we're trying to do, which is these large communities. And what's cool is you put a well in, as you guys know, a lot of these tribes are kind of moving around, based on resources and, whatever it might be. And the communities are spread out. But when we put a well in, the communities move closer to the well, and people kind of congregate. And I think a lot more synergy happens when there's, a center, and water is the center. And I think that speaks to how important it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically how it's been since the dawn of civilization. Like, you go where the water is, and if you have clean water that's not making you sick all the time, that's where you go. Chris, thanks so much for joining us, man. We appreciate your time, dude. Thanks for all the stories and tales.
Yeah,
I appreciate you all. Yeah, I want to compliment you guys before I leave. Two of the best and brightest. I said that off camera. Two of my favorites.
Yeah, and I just have one more question.
Yeah.
So me and you have something in common. We're both Super Bowl winning defensive ends. Me with the Shanghai Warriors, you with the Patriots and the Eagles. And then I coached in Uganda. And I think part of the reason we lost to Kenya is I failed to teach my players outside contain. Do you have any tips for teaching that to people just learning the sport of football?
Yeah, I do. Keep your outside arm free. You got to shock and keep your hips square to the opposite end zone. So like, a lot of guys will go, I'm setting a good edge, but their face mask is facing the center. So what happens when you get stretch at you and you're constricting, but you're not setting an edge? So you got to have vision. You got to keep an arm free. And as long as you have that arm free, you probably be good. I don't want to make it too complicated for the guys you're trying to install it for, but I really think hands and angle are the most important thing when you come setting an edge.
Cool. And maybe we'll get you back on the field in Africa at some point too.
Coach, do you have Toradol?
I think you'd be fine. Like, is your biggest concern just tearing an ACL or something if you put the pads back on and played?
No. Honestly, it's just the chronic inflammation. Yeah. Like, it's the ability to even get out there and feel good. You know what I mean? If I can get the Toradol, I think I can play for you, coach.
Yeah, I mean it's like it's high school level football.
Yeah.
So I
Have
think
you
you'd
seen
be
some of
okay.
these high schoolers?
Well, it's not Texas high school ball. All right? This is like D5 Massachusetts high school ball.
Okay, good. Kind of like the high school ball I played.
No, yeah, exactly.
Good. Yeah. Well, thank you guys, man.
All right, Chris.
Keep up
Thanks,
the great
brother.
work. All right, I'll see y'all.
Yep.
All right, before we get into our deep dive about Tanzania, I wanted to tell you about our good friends at Mando. It's official. The holidays are around the corner. That means lights, gifts, and get-togethers. And you don't want to smell bad during all those moments. You want to smell good. Mando stops odor before it starts and is safe for the whole body. That's the pits, the package, the feet, everywhere in between. You can choose from 3 formats, whether that's the invisible spray, the solid stick, or the invisible cream. And 4 cologne quality scents. You got bourbon leather, my personal fave. You got Mount Fuji. You got Pro Sports and Clover Woods, which I also love. Anything kind of like that, I am into it. And you can see it. I got it right here on my lap, the Mount Fuji deodorant. This stuff smells so good, and it has 72-hour odor control, which normally I do not buy. 72 hours, I don't believe that it exists. This exists. I tried it out. Well, not 72 hours, but I did 48, didn't bathe, didn't do any of that because I'm a nasty little boy. That's why I need Mando, so people can't tell. I'm incognito with my nastiness now. Mando Starter Pack is what you need. It's perfect for new customers or to secure some last-minute stocking stuffers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant. You got cream tube deodorant and 2 free products of your choice, like the mini body wash or the deodorant wipes, which are also awesome if you're flying and you need to just do a quick little spot cleanup at the airport. It's perfect for that. New customers are going to get $5 off a starter pack with the exclusive code Wonton. That equates over 40% off your starter pack. Again, use promo code Wonton at shopmando.com. That's shopmando.com. Again, if you want the phonetic alphabet, it's Sierra, Hotel, Oscar, Papa, Mike, Alpha, November, Delta, Oscar.com. Struggle through that. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you by using that promo code Wonton. Again, don't let the meat sweats get you down this holiday season. Your family and friends will thank you when those pits, those privates, and all other parts in between are covered with our good friends from Mando's. All right, so let's get into some Tanzania facts and history. This is one coming into the show. I didn't know jack shit about Tanzania.
I just knew that it was like the #1 safari destination in Africa because it's where the Great Migration takes place.
That's right.
The largest animal migration in the world.
So let's get you situated for the listener, the watcher. So if you're watching or listening, Tanzania is on the west coast of Africa. It's about halfway up, maybe about a third of the way up from the Horn.
It's on the East Coast.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Tanzania is in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. Yep.
East Africa.
Yep, East Africa, and I'm even fucking looking at it right now. And it borders with Kenya and Mozambique, Somalia are all right in that same region. It doesn't border with Somalia, but it's right there to give you an idea. And it also shares a border with the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Now, Tanzania is actually the most historical place on Earth because the first humans ever were believed to have lived in Tanzania at a place called Olduvai Gorge. And I think they've found some of the oldest human bones there.
Yep, and it's been inhabited for 3.6 million years.
Mm-hmm.
And they have found footprints. Some of the original hunter-gatherer footprints are still there, and they were, what is it called? They were, what's that fucking word?
Fossilized? Or?
Yeah, fossilized.
Okay.
Yep.
So, East Africa had a lot of exposure to the Middle East because there was so much trade going back and forth. So that coast became Muslim, or at least certain enclaves on the coast of Tanzania had a big Muslim influence. But once you left the coast, that had kind of been untouched, and they had their own local religion. I think they spoke Swahili.
Yep.
And the first Westerners to explore the coast of Tanzania were the Portuguese, because they were the first Europeans to start trading a bunch with India, and like to get from Portugal to India, you'd go around the Cape and then up the coast of Africa, and then once the monsoon winds came, ride those over to India, and then ride the monsoon winds back.
You're right, though. It is where Swahili culture first began, and it's because Swahili culture is a mix of African, Arab, and Persian influences.
Okay.
And the colonial period in the 15 and 1700s, that's when the Portuguese arrived. They gained control over the coastal regions, disrupting the prosperous Swahili trade, and their influence there weakened over time. And that's when you really started to get some German East African influence.
You're forgetting about a very important empire that controlled Zanzibar and the coast of Tanzania for a while.
Our friends, the Omani.
The Omani Empire, which it's like...
Longtime stoolies.
I think it was kind of like one of the only Arab empires that had overseas colonies. Because if you look at Oman on the map, it's at the tip of the Arabian Peninsula, but they were fighting the Portuguese for hundreds of years because they didn't like how so many Portuguese were coming to that part of the world and taking over. And so they were able to kick them out of a bunch of different spots. And one of those spots was Zanzibar, which is an island right off the coast of Tanzania. It's part of the country now. And a lot of the coast of East Africa, they also went across the Persian Gulf and conquered the coast of what is now Pakistan and Iran. They actually even were friends with the U.S. Yeah, on the 21st of September, 1833, a historic treaty of friendship and trade was signed with the United States. And on 1840, the ship Al Sultana docked at New York, making it the first Arab envoy to ever visit the New World.
Crazy.
Yeah. After the Omanis, during the scramble for Africa, which was insane, it's kind of just when like all the European powers had a meeting in Berlin, I think, and they were like, listen, we all want colonies in Africa. This is how we're going to divide it up so we don't end up going to war with each other.
I didn't know any of that.
I wish I knew more. Belgium, they controlled the Congo, and like King Leopold, he was known as like not a good king, especially when it came to Africa. They treated the local Congolese really bad. They'd be like, you need to bring a certain amount of gold every day or we'll chop off your arm or something like that.
Fuck.
But he was a big proponent of colonizing Africa. So he got all the European powers together and they just divvied it up. And Germany got Tanzania, the UK got Kenya. So it was called German East Africa for a while.
And that started from 1885 to 1919.
One of the other German colonies in Africa was Namibia. I went there when I was in college because I had gone abroad to Botswana, and then afterwards I had some free time, and it was mind-blowing. You're just driving through the desert for hours, surrounded by these gigantic sand dunes, and then we came to this place called Swakopmund, and it was like you're in a German town from the World War I era.
Really?
Yeah, like all of the architecture, super German. A lot of the food, very German. Tons of German tourists there.
Go over there and have some sauerkraut.
Yeah, you could get some great sauerkraut in Swakopmund.
Shit.
Yeah. And I went skydiving for the first time.
See, I wouldn't have guessed that would be your first skydiving spot.
Why do you think? Because I would be too worried it's not like safe? They're not.
Yeah, I would think your first time you'd want to do it in a place that has a little higher safety standards. But maybe I'm just being very judgmental as well. Probably so.
I think you're being a little judgmental, but I remember when I was at Victoria Falls in Africa, you could bungee jump off the bridge, and I chose not to do it. Because honestly, bungee jumping scares me more than...
More dangerous than...
Yeah, and when you bungee jump, you're diving off a bridge head first, and you can see the ground. Like when you jump out of a plane, you're so high up, it almost doesn't feel real.
And your spine is just absolutely not meant to be bungeed.
No, okay. But back to that story, like a year later, a tourist bungee jumped in that same spot and the cord broke. And she ended up in the river, survived, badly bruised, but she ended up in a river filled with crocs. And it was just, she just got really lucky that she wasn't immediately eaten.
That's got to be all-time scary 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Falling off of a huge bridge into croc-infested water and trying to figure out which way to go, especially knowing anything about crocodiles, if you do, or alligators, that they're most likely hanging out by the bank. And that's where you got to go.
And it would also, like, you just survived a bungee cord breaking to then die by being eaten alive by alligators. Like, that would be a tough break.
You can't be in peak shape at that point when you just fell.
No, I think she was horribly bruised because, like, the cord slowed her down and then broke. So she didn't die, but she still hit the water hard.
Fuck.
Yeah, so it was a German colony up until Germany lost World War I, and then they had to give up all their colonies. So it passed on to the British.
Damn.
And then in World War II, there were still a lot of Germans that lived in Tanzania. So when World War II broke out, the British were worried, like, all right, all the Germans here could revolt against us and try to take it over. And Roald Dahl was stationed in Tanzania at the time, and it was his job to keep an eye on the Germans.
Shout out James and the Giant Peach.
Mm-hmm. He was in the British Air Force.
Oh, yeah, I did know that. Yeah,
Yeah, because his like first mission, he crashed in the Libyan desert, I think, and wrote a book about that. Now, he recently sort of got canceled, or there was like some...
Yeah, it's just kind of, I think it's, if you look at somebody in the early 1900s, late 1800s,
yeah,
there's definitely going to be something that they wrote or opinion that they had that was problematic for sure.
Mhm.
Like even looking at Disney, I don't think that Walt Disney's intention was probably to make some of the most racist films and having ants portrayed as Native Americans. I didn't think that like 100 years later that it would turn out to be bad and that they'd have to take it off.
yeah.
But if you look at the past through a modern lens, you're not going to find anybody who wrote anything or produced anything. Just like, I mean, look at movies that we quoted growing up all the time. Like a lot of those aren't getting made now.
No. What was the movie where ants were Native Americans?
Peter Pan.
Okay. They were ants?
Yeah, so it was ants, and they put like feathers behind their head, and they would like march around. And
Okay.
they were red ants. Which,
Yes.
like,
Okay, yep.
there was a lot of racist imagery in there, and even at Disney World in Orlando, they have taken all of those images out. So I think it was the same kind of situation where they looked at some of his past works. Now, I don't know exactly. Maybe it was something horrific that he said,
Yeah.
which wouldn't be a surprise either, like based on that time period.
Yep.
But I think that a lot of times people get retroactively canceled, and you're like, what the hell are we, like Dr. Seuss getting retroactively canceled happened too.
Yeah, we can't be canceling Dr. Seuss.
No.
No, you can't be doing that.
Mm-mm.
Roald Dahl wrote like a lot of adult books too, or at least some adult books. I remember when I was young, I bought a collection of his short stories thinking like this would be for children. It was not. Like,
Erotic in nature? Or?
no, but just super fucked up. One was about these two bullies that like made this kid get up in a tree, and then they just like started shooting BB guns or some sort of gun at him, and then like made him lay down on the train tracks while like a train was coming by. But like thankfully he was low enough that he didn't die.
See, I feel like that was 1930s goofing.
That was 1930s goofing.
I think that's just
Trying to
goofing
shoot-
off in the 30s.
Trying to shoot your friend in a tree and then make
Yeah.
him lay down on the fucking train track.
I mean, if you are a young boy and you didn't have BB gun fights growing up, where did you grow up?
I didn't have a BB gun growing up, probably because I grew up in Massachusetts.
Oh, I did. That's where, see this spot on my head?
Yeah.
That's from a pellet gun.
Oh, shit.
One of my buddies shot me in the face with a pellet gun. I had to pull it out with my fingers.
But, I mean, we did play a lot of violent games. We had one game, Natives and Settlers, where we would just go into the woods. And I don't know what the goal was. The goal was to, like, break into the other person's fort. But we just used logs and branches as weapons, and we would just whip them at each other. Or just, like, run up to someone and just crack a giant branch over their back.
Yeah, see, now I feel like parents would frown upon that.
Yeah. But it was fun. Like, it was electric.
Yeah. But even the premise of being natives versus settlers.
Yeah. That, well, cowboys and Indians, like, yeah, that was a huge thing growing up.
Maybe my number one game played overall, excuse me for saying it, but Smear the Queer was probably my most played game.
I don't know if we played Smear the Queer. We actually used to play a game that was based around catching Osama bin Laden.
Pre 9/11.
No, this was after 9/11.
Oh, I guess that really shows how much younger are you than me. How old are you?
Well, I was still pretty old, but I think 9/11 happened when I was in 7th grade.
Okay, that makes more sense.
So that was right at my like transition from playing these crazy games to then just like trying to hit on chicks and trying to find booze. But that would get really violent. We just had one person. We nicknamed him Piscatcha bin Laden because we called this kid Piscatch, and then Piscatcha bin Laden. The whole game was pretty much just us beating the crap out of him. But he would have a couple people that were like supposed to protect him, but he would always end up getting his ass kicked.
That doesn't sound like a good time for that kid.
I know, because it was never like, oh, it's your turn to be Osama bin Laden. He was just always him, and he would always get his ass kicked. But we weren't too violent. It was more like form tackling, not punching in the face.
You weren't doing any targeting or anything?
Well, we weren't. It wasn't like a fist fight. We had to like tackle him and drag him back to our fort.
Sounds like a good time.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah, so after World War II, it was still in control of the British, but that was when there was movements in all of the British colonies to gain their independence. And so, do you know the exact date that Tanzania gained independence? I think it was in the 60s.
Yeah, the rise of nationalism took place there where they were getting tired of being ruled by foreign entities, and it first came up in 1961 where they achieved independence from Britain with Julius Nyerere as its first president.
Okay. Now, we didn't really talk about this earlier, but yeah, the like Arab slave trade from East Africa to the Middle East like was rampant. I think Zanzibar was the largest slave market in Africa, and it was the longest lasting. And I do think they would usually castrate their slaves, which is why like the Middle East used to have a lot of African slaves, but you don't see tons of African people. Like when I went to Iraq, like I don't remember seeing any black people. And I think that's because like a lot of the slaves back then were castrated.
You did see a lot of ginger people.
I did? I mean, I'm sure.
I did.
Yeah.
I did anyways.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and that's because whenever, from what we were told, it was the initial invasion, there was lots of sex happening with Iraqi women and like GIs, almost like old school shit. So there'd be like ginger people. Like there was one kid, I have a picture of him on my Facebook account, and he looks like one of the guys that we would hire here. That looks weird, like the guy that Dave hired off of a baseball commercial one time, or the ginger giant, the kid from San Francisco.
Oh, so you're saying that was from the first Gulf War?
Yeah.
Wow. The only ginger Muslims I've seen is the Uyghurs in China. A few of them I think would just naturally have red hair.
Yeah.
That's like in way, way West China.
And their lives are fucking terrible right now.
So I hear, yeah. You don't hear about that anymore. For a while, that
Not
was
much, yeah.
in the news all the time.
I think we just lose attention span. Think about how wall-to-wall coverage Ukraine was. And now it's still going on just as bad.
Yeah.
Bringing in other countries like North Korea to fight. Like they got 18,000 North Korean soldiers there now.
Wow. There's a lot of white YouTubers in China now that have been accused of working for the Chinese government, and they'll travel to Xinjiang where all the Uyghurs are and just be walking around being like, see, they're all happy here. And,
doing a little whitewashing?
Yeah, it's hard to know what is actually going on. I can assure you when I was out in China, I was never sponsored by the government. I must have been on their radar, though, at some point.
Had to, as many times as you got detained and like had different types of videos that went crazy viral, they had to have.
You might have an idea about this. I can't tell if the guy was fucking with me or not, but I have a friend, an acquaintance, not a super close friend, and he would always say, I don't really know what my older brother does for work. And then at one point I was giving him and his brother a tour of the New York office, and at the end of the tour, he hands me this little token.
Like a coin?
Yeah, it was like a coin. As he hands it to me, he was like, we had to look you up for a little bit, just to make sure, that you weren't a spy or like working with the Chinese. And I looked at the coin; it was a CIA coin.
Yeah.
Do you think there was a chance that the CIA was like?
Absolutely, there was.
Okay.
I would be shocked beyond shocked if there wasn't. Like, because the things that you did and you didn't really get in trouble for, and it went viral. If I was investigating, I would think, okay, so this guy jumped in the ring during a Manny Pacquiao fight. Granted, it wasn't there, but who doesn't get in trouble for that? You had stories about getting caught at the Shanghai Sharks game and doing things that you weren't supposed to and didn't get caught. When the normal American mind, when I saw it, I was like, this motherfucker's crazy. Like, before I knew you. And even now, I look back and I'm like, damn, there's no doubt in my mind that they had maybe not like a full ass investigation, but they definitely would.
Yeah, maybe just they like checked in on me briefly just to be like, okay, this is just a whack job out in China. There's nothing deeper to see here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I know it's a huge problem with Chinese people that go to school in the U.S. or do a graduate program. If they're doing some sort of research, be it science or technology, that they're going to take all of the research back with them to China.
Yeah. I mean, chips are huge.
Yeah.
Like, I've done lots of interviews with different people that worked at NSA or the different alphabet agencies, and they've talked about how that's one of the more difficult aspects, is because you want people that, like the Chinese folks that come over and that they are super skilled in technology and they want to do like work training and they want to participate here, but they're nervous that you could sneak back a little chip so easily.
Mm-hmm.
And it creates, and then the counterfeit, like, and the stealing the intellectual property is such a huge deal. It's the biggest, I think it's the biggest source of contention between China and us, is like the technology race. And not just that, but there's been several in the past 5 years of former U.S. military pilots that go and explain how different parts of like the airplane work. Like just today, there was a new announcement for a brand new state-of-the-art fighter jet for China. It's a F-35. Like, it's essentially an F-35 because there's been so many schematics that were leaked online, like the video games, like that PFT used to play.
Yeah.
They would have, there's been at least 5 different people that work on all these planes that have uploaded all the schematics, everything to these video game sites. And China has taken that and has basically reproduced the F-35, which is one of our most expensive, most important military assets that we have. It's what makes us rule the sky.
Yeah, they are very good at recreating things that they see here.
They do that. That's the reason why we go balls to the wall if like an unmanned drone goes down in that area of the world.
Yeah. They also just ripped off the Jordan shoe, and then they started calling it like Chow Don, which just means Jordan in Chinese. And somehow the first time Michael Jordan tried suing them, he lost. I don't know. I think maybe he tried suing them again and finally won.
In that situation, what can America really do?
Yeah, because they have their own laws. We can't.
Right, they're a sovereign country. It's not like, I mean, I guess you can put a tariff on their export or their import, and you can ban things from being imported. Okay,
it looks like the Shanghai Second People's Court finally ruled in favor of Jordan.
Oh,
but he filed the lawsuit in 2012. I think it failed a couple times, and then it wasn't until 2020 that they ruled in favor of him.
Well, you had videos where you would go to those streets where everything was counterfeit.
Yeah, those were the fake markets, and they used to have one just in downtown Shanghai. It was great. You could get whatever you wanted: fake beats, fake shoes, fake sunglasses. They started to crack down on that, so they closed the one in downtown Shanghai. They still have one in Shanghai, but it's on the outskirts of the city. And like, I think they do like every once in a while will get raided by the copyright police.
But you make so much money, it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. I filmed a video in there once, but I had to be very careful about filming because they're kind of like no cameras in the fake market.
Yeah. I mean, I just finished reading this book about India, and one of the biggest trades, they had such a decline in Mumbai. They had a decline in drug trade and human trafficking because counterfeit DVD and CD business was so profitable for them that the risk was so much less that so many of like the black markets stopped doing drugs and prostitution and went strictly there because they would get one CD.
Yes.
And then Americans there coming in or foreigners would come in and they would buy it for $15 and they could make it for 2 cents.
Yeah.
Margins were so insane that they stopped doing legit black market stuff and were just doing movies.
That was actually awesome. When I lived in China, I could walk to a store right down the street and they had DVDs of every movie you could think of. And some of these DVDs, the movie had just came out in the US. And then somehow there was already a copy of it in China that was high quality.
I spent so much money at the Haji market, is what we called it in Iraq, where I would buy. So my presents when like parents buy their kids presents whenever you're going on a work trip. My present that I brought back from my older kid was every single Disney movie ever made, and they all fit on like 4 DVDs.
It was oh my God.
I don't know how they did it, but there would be like 20 DVDs or 20 movies on one side of a DVD, and then you could flip it over. I think it was like a set of 5 or 6.
Okay.
And it had legit like 300 or 400 movies on it.
Was this shop like on the base?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it like so you could get that, you could get cigarettes, like the Miami cigarettes. I don't know if you've ever had those.
I don't know.
I think you'd really like that.
I sure would.
Yeah, that's a good hoon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, now that we're on the topic of China, we mentioned that the largest animal migration is in Tanzania. Do you know where the largest human migration is?
No.
It's the Chinese New Year migration in China, because the entire country has sometimes 2 weeks off from work. It's like the entire country shuts down pretty much, and everybody heads back to their hometown, because there are so many migrant workers in China that are from smaller cities or smaller villages, and by small they're probably still 1 million people or something like that, but they all go back to their hometown. So it's the migration from the large cities on the East Coast to the villages in the West.
Well, shit.
Yeah.
I actually have been falling down a TikTok rabbit hole on China, but one city in particular, I don't know how to say it, but it's the one that's built on levels.
Built on levels.
Where there's like stairs everywhere, and they're like, you never know what floor you're on, like the whole city.
I think it's Chongqing.
Yes. That's right. Yeah.
Chongqing is it's an awesome looking city.
Like this guy's like, follow me to work while I go to walk with me to work while I go. It's basically Dave walks to work, but it takes place there.
Yeah.
And the guy has to go down 700 flights of steps every day.
Yeah, just because it's built in the middle of all these mountains.
He's like, look, it looks like we're on the 3rd floor. Well, if you actually go down, we're on the 21st floor, and like things are happening. It's like makes Lower Wacker here in Chicago look like nothing.
I got to get back there. It was a fascinating city. The food is great. Very spicy food. I think they have some of the spiciest food in all of China. And it's also where I wandered on to a construction project where they're building, like, if this bridge was built in the U.S., it might be the largest bridge in the country, but it was only half done at the time.
Yeah.
And this was at like 6 in the morning. We were leaving a club, pretty hammered. We just wandered on, got into the elevator, and took the elevator up to the top.
That's the reason why CIA should look into you.
Yeah. A couple of the other construction workers show up and we're like, oh, fuck. We're going to get charged with trespassing or something. And all they say is you need to be wearing a hard hat if you're up here.
Safety's paramount.
They weren't like, why the fuck are you up here? They're just like, if you want to be on top of this bridge, throw on a hard hat.
All right. All right. So I have some trivia for you.
Is it about Tanzania?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so their university is named the University Dar es Salaam. Guess where it ranks as far as universities in Africa?
Top 5?
No, 1,041st university. So not
not
a very good
not
one.
A great university.
And it currently ranks as number 13,935th best university in the world. Which anytime you can be in the top 15,000, pretty good.
I don't know about that. When it comes to universities,
top 15? Come on.
That's tough.
Their national soccer team is ranked 121st in the FIFA World Rankings, and they have a population of 67 million.
Okay.
It's the 23rd most populous country in the world.
Whoa. Well, hey, their soccer team is better than the Bhutanese soccer team.
True.
Yeah. All right, I have a trivia question for you.
Ready.
Think of a very famous rock star who
Okay.
has since passed away that was born in Tanzania. Very famous rock star.
Very famous.
But he's no longer living.
Johnny Cash.
No. I'll give you another hint.
Okay.
He was a British rock star.
Is Mick Jagger still alive?
Yeah. He's still alive. I saw him in Chicago not that long
Oh,
ago.
Freddie Mercury.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. So his parents, I think they lived in Zanzibar. And what were his parents? They were like a certain faith. Parsi. Ooh, and they were Zoroastrian. Have you ever heard of that?
Mm-mm.
That was the religion that was the biggest competitor to Christianity for a while. It was the religion of the Persian Empire before the Muslims conquered the Persians and made them Muslim.
Oh, this sounds like something I can get behind. Zoroastrianism centers on the worship of the Ahura Mazda as the supreme deity and promotes the principles of good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. Freddie Mercury didn't participate, but his family did, and that's the kind of funeral that he had.
Parsi were people from the Persia and India region that kind of fled due to persecution from Muslims. So probably just because they wanted freedom to still practice Zoroastrianism.
Okay.
And probably at that time in Persia, they wanted everybody to convert.
I didn't realize it was one of the oldest monotheistic religions.
Yeah.
It says that it started 3,500 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And they would also worship the eternal flame. So in all of their temples, they would have a flame that they would keep lit for hundreds of years.
Many people say that that's one of the Zoroastrianism has a lasting impact on other major religions in the world, including Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The ideas like heaven and hell, the final judgment, and the coming of the savior figure, who is called Sassafant in the Zoroastrianism, are believed to have been influenced by Abrahamic beliefs through the ancient intercultural exchanges.
Oh, yeah. I would say the only thing we haven't touched on in terms of Tanzania history is that it was home to, I think, the shortest war in history, the Anglo-Zanzibar War, which lasted 38 to 45 minutes.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
And the British had 1 wounded, while the Zanzibari forces had 500 casualties.
That, as somebody like who's fought in wars, has got to be so frustrating. Because you sit around waiting forever for them to be like, okay, we're going to go do it. And you have prepared your mind. And then if you only got to do it for like 5th period, essentially in middle school,
Yeah.
you'd be like, what the hell? That's a fast 45 minutes.
Yeah, and the cause of the war was just that Zanzibar got a new sultan, but it was not the sultan that Britain had approved, because at that point they're like, you guys can have your own ruler, but we have to approve them.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't approve, so they were like, put our guy in charge, or this means war. And they said, it's war then. But then I think Britain just pulled up with a few of their ships and just started shelling the palace.
Smart to back off in that situation.
Yeah.
When you realize you're completely outgunned.
Yeah. There was a time when Britain was going all over the world, and their technology was so much more advanced. But then World War I happened, and that's when they were fighting everybody else that had the same technology.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, oh, fuck, this war is going to get bad.
I mean, that's what we did too.
Yeah.
With the Eisenhower Doctrine.
Because we had the nuke.
We had the nuke. We kind of fought wars by just people knowing that we had it. And so they kind of bent to our will.
That's why there was never a direct war between USA and the Soviet Union.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like we would fight the Korean proxy war, the Vietnamese proxy war.
We love proxy wars.
We sure do. But at the time, like we're involved in the Ukraine-Russia proxy war. Is that the only one?
Right now? No. We're
Israel,
Yemen, Saudi Arabia.
Gaza, Iran, yeah.
Yemen, Saudi Arabia, the Sudan, like we're involved there. We have people fighting al-Shabaab, like it's a proxy war. We supply weapons. We've supplied weapons to both sides at different points.
You know how earlier in the episode you were talking about how Ernest Hemingway he decided to go fight in the Spanish Civil War? I think modern day people like that would be the French Foreign Legion, and then I guess BlackRock like that.
Blackwater.
Blackwater.
But Blackwater is kind of shut down
Okay, it's kind of shut down.
a little bit. But there's a dude named Trevor Reed who was a Marine who was captured in Russia just by being like a tourist there. Got captured and was put in prison for a while. And then once he got his release secured early in the Biden administration, and then he went and fought in Ukraine with a bunch of other Marines that he knew.
Okay.
And so there's still there's a bunch of Marines and soldiers that have gone over to fight in Ukraine that just volunteer to go fight.
So there's a bunch of Marine and soldiers, but there's also just some random dudes.
Random dudes, yeah.
Like who are like, I have a gun,
Yeah.
and like are now in Ukraine fighting.
Yeah. Fuck that.
Which, yeah, no.
No thanks.
I mean, I would trust a Marine to handle himself out there. I'm sure like a random dude from the U.S., he goes out to help. I don't know how much he's helping.
But that's the thing about it. Like with these Marines that go do that, Marines are good because you're a group together. Like, and you train together, you know how everybody works. You go into a regular spot, just like going into a bar. Like, if you're a Marine going into a bar, you're likely to get your ass kicked if you're fighting somebody. Like, you could fight a little bit, but you're not like a UFC guy by any means.
No.
You're good together because everybody knows how to use their guns in the same, like, music.
Yeah. All right, well, is there anything else you want to cover when it comes to Tanzania?
See, one more trivia question.
Oh, I would love one.
Who is the most famous athlete ever from there? Played in the NBA.
I was going to say it was probably someone who plays in the Premier League or something. But
if you get this.
Hakeem Olajuwon?
No, it's a good guess, though.
Okay.
Hashim Thabit. You remember him?
I don't, actually.
He played for the Memphis Grizzly, Oklahoma City Thunder.
Oh, cool.
And he's like 7'2".
Wow.
Maybe taller than that.
Hashim Habib. Maybe that. Have you seen the movie Blue Chips?
Yeah.
And like at one point, doesn't he travel to Africa to try to recruit this super tall guy?
Yep.
Maybe that was loosely based on Hashim.
Hashim, he was 7'3". He's not dead.
Wow. Not too long ago either. He was drafted in the 2009 NBA draft.
Oh, and he was from where the 13,995th best university is.
Okay. Dar es Salaam.
Yeah,
let's
good
go.
for him. Yeah. Oh shit, Dar es Salaam is pretty. Holy shit.
I
Damn.
will say that I think of all geographic locations, Zanzibar cracks my top 5 of coolest sounding spot.
Oh yeah, and it got a big shout out from Jack Black.
It did?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
From Zanzibar, and then I'm gonna love you completely.
Okay.
And then I'll fucking fuck you completely.
Yeah, we got Zanzibar probably makes the list. Kalamazoo maybe.
Kalamazoo sounds sick. Yeah.
Yeah. Timbuktu, which was a real place. That sounds cool.
Lake Titicaca.
Lake Titicaca. Woonsocket, Rhode Island.
Moothjaw, Northwest Territories.
Moothjaw.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moothjaw is great. And Kathmandu is pretty cool too.
Mm-hmm. Kilimanjaro was good.
Kilimanjaro. Yep.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. I think that wraps up Tanzania. Let's get cultured. Okay. Today we have Ella on Getting Cultured, one of the newest Barstool Chicago employees. How old are you?
22.
All right.
Lovingly known as one of the TikTok girlies.
Yeah. Scary TikTok girl upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
How many followers on TikTok?
Like 230K.
Ballin'.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
I see so many travel TikTokers these days, and
Yeah.
they're just wiping the floor with me, getting way more views and likes. And I feel like back during my hardcore travel days, I should have taken advantage of TikTok a lot more often.
Yeah, I bet if you went back and just did your old videos on there, they would crush too.
I have done that. I've had some go viral. I need to do more of those. But I lived in Venice for a year, and like the whole time I was just working on the other travel series I'd done. So like I went to the Balkans while I was out there, so I was working on that. Went to Turkey and Iraq, was just editing that YouTube series. But if I just posted a TikTok a day being like, what it's like being an American living in Venice, like that would have gone viral for sure.
There's this one cunt from England that he's like, a British person living abroad in America.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I fucking hate this guy so
But
much.
He
millions
probably
They got
hates it, right?
their beans taste so different from our beans.
yeah. Now, what is your question today for Getting Cultured?
Well, if you've seen my TikToks, still 22, still love to party. I would say top 5 places to party around the world.
Oh, that stuff for me. I'll have one. You want to go back and forth? Just the places that we've been that'll party, or do you individual party?
Yeah, sure.
I'd say my number one overall that I've gone to would be Germany, Ramstein, Germany. I was there for Oktoberfest. It's not the big Oktoberfest, but I had just got back from Iraq and like landed there and had a bunch of drinks, and like going post-war to Oktoberfest was absolutely amazing. So that scene was crazy.
All right, I'm gonna have to pick Hong Kong, especially over Hong
my
Kong
God,
Sevens
really?
weekend. Yeah, I think the party scene has died down a bit since COVID and all the protests, but Hong Kong circa 2014, they got this street Long Kwai Fong. It's like the craziest bar street in Manhattan, but it's on a steep mountain. So the incline is like this, and there's all these bars down these crazy alleyways. And yeah, it rages. You can also take out boats for cheap. So if you get 20 friends, everyone pays $100. That comes with a giant yacht with all you can eat, all you can drink, and you just take it out into the bay and party.
That's sick.
That's sick.
Yeah. And Hong Kong Sevens weekend, you have people there from all over the world, a bunch of crazy Brits, crazy Aussie bros. It's a fun vibe. Yeah.
Havana, Cuba. I got to go there. I was with when President Obama was the first president to go to Cuba since the embargo. I got to go down there, and we had a bunch of just Cuban cocktails, and that was amazing. Watch Cuban baseball players play like in the parking lot of their stadium. That was pretty sick.
I want to go like Cuba or Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
I love Hispanic culture. I love that.
Yeah, they got really cheap flights down to Colombia too.
I want to go there because I love Sofia Vergara, and she's from Bogota.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go. Yeah. Medellin was my favorite place there. I didn't really party though because it was over COVID when I visited. I'm gonna go Thailand.
I was just gonna ask about that. Have you been there?
I've been, but it was like a stop layover
Because
thing.
my guy friends went after they graduated. They did an Asia trip because we all studied in Europe, and they said there was a street that was kind of reminded them of Amsterdam, what's the street in Amsterdam with
The red light district?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yep.
They said they had that in Thailand, something like that.
Oh
Yeah.
I mean,
What is it, cowboy something?
Lady
oh
boys.
my God, I actually know the bar you're talking about. Yeah, it's a bar in Bangkok, and it's the biggest hooker bar there.
Yeah.
And you go in, and just there's naked girls running around everywhere. It's not like a strip club in the U.S. It's just you go in, there are a lot of naked girls dancing on these elevated platforms, but all those girls will also go home with you for a price that's not that high.
Yeah, can't be that much. Yeah.
But if you just want to go in and grab a drink, you can still have a good time because there's just a bunch of naked girls hanging around, and they'll be like if you order a drink, they'll be like, "Oh, do you need help drinking that?" and hold the cup up to your mouth and stuff. Yeah, I think it's called Kosan Cowboy. I can't believe you're bringing that up. Wild place. So yeah, if you're into hookers, you could go to Kosan Cowboy.
Uh-huh.
I was more.
Does that get the drop a pin stamp of approval?
You know what? I had fun. I didn't leave with any hookers, but I had more fun than being at a strip club, and it was a hell of a lot cheaper.
I don't know. There's not many strip clubs I've ended having a good time. I feel like strip club nights
Yeah.
always end up poorly.
Yes, and
Yeah.
you end up broke
Mm-hmm.
just because you got an over the pants hand job maybe.
Yep.
It feels so wrong because we've gone with our guy friends and then you just watch. They're like, give me money. At 11 in Miami, they'll get really greedy, and it's if you want to stand even near them at a good spot, because they'll have performers on New Year's Eve, and it gets really crowded, and you'll be trying to stand at a good spot, but then it's also near the strippers, and they're like, give me money if you want to stand there, and it's oh my God, okay, then I'll back up. I'll go over by the bar, I guess.
Yeah, they're not concerned about your good time. They're concerned about money.
Yeah, they'd be very sad. But
I would be too if my tits were out all the time. I'd be like, you don't get.
I'd be like,
there's-
fucking pay up.
It's not for free.
when I said Thailand, though, I was more thinking of their full moon parties, which they do every full moon, and it's like a crazy party in a club, but on a beach. And it's just as crowded as a club, but you're walking down, there's fire dancers, people are doing fire jump rope. They have shroom shakes that they sell. It's a good vibe if you're looking to rage. If you kind of just want a chiller night out, it would not be the place for you. And then any other party destinations?
Have you guys been to Bali?
No,
I have not. I've heard like so many mixed things. Like a lot of people say, "Oh, it's not worth the hype at all." Other people are like, "What are you talking about? It's paradise."
I heard it depends on the weather. Like the water is either unbelievable or it looks like shit. Like it's all weather dependent. The Gulf of Pensacola is like that too. Lots of areas in the Gulf are like that where it could either be pristine or disgusting.
Yeah, I've heard it's not really the spot you would go if you're just looking for beaches, but if you're into yoga, if you're into any sort of holistic thing, it'd be a solid spot to go. And
I think the guys went for like surfing, and then they also said there was like the nightlife was cool, like DJs, but not maybe like well-known DJs, but like you like do drugs and sort of like DJs like that.
Vibing.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like beach clubs, like sort of like what you were talking about.
Yeah, kind of like deep house music.
Yeah.
But just like yeah, you can definitely rage in Bali from what I hear. And it's funny because it's in Indonesia, and the rest of Indonesia, alcohol is pretty restricted, even banned in most places because it's a Muslim country. But Bali's the one spot where kind of all rules are off the table, and that's
I think some of that's even changing though. I think it's getting more strict there.
Okay, I wouldn't know. I think that's the reason it's such a foreigner hotspot, is because it's the one spot where alcohol rules and all the other rules aren't really enforced.
Ooh, the other one is Berlin.
I've heard their raves are nuts. I've heard
I haven't been.
Berlin is famous for all-night raves. And
they actually get insane DJs there.
Yeah, they get the best DJs in the world. I think they'll be in these like big abandoned warehouses or these underground rooms, and they'll go all night.
They're in the Czech Republic are huge on that too.
Yeah, tons of MDMA, and I'm sure it's like good, clean MDMA. I'm sure at a Berlin rave they actually have someone checking all the drugs for you just to make sure that it's safe.
You think?
I think that, yeah.
Why?
Because it's such an ingrained part of the culture there that they don't have to hide it as much. Like I don't think MDMA is legal in Germany, but like it's just a known fact. Okay, everybody's going to do drugs and go to this rave. Let's at least try to keep people safe.
Okay. I guess they're doing that at places like Lollapalooza now too. Like where you could check like to make sure that there's no fentanyl in it. Like they had little booths that were set up this year.
That's crazy.
Did you go? You didn't see it? There was booths that they had that you could check to make sure that everything was fine. They had that and Narcan tents.
I mean, that's a very smart thing to do.
It is. There's Narcan tents all over the place at Lala this year.
Because I think
it's like people are going to do it anyways. You might as well.
Yeah. Yep. Safety, like they're going to do it. You might as well have something that people don't die.
I think 5 years ago at Electric Zoo, like 4 people died because there was a bad batch going around.
That's like awful.
Yeah.
My only issue though with like Berlin like that, because my friend, there was like a couple people that actually studied abroad there, so they were doing the all night long like club thing every weekend, and I was like, oh my God, I would die. But some people visited and they were out all night long, like walked out at 9 a.m. and I was like, I don't know how you did that. And they were like, oh, because the drugs. And I was like, I don't think I could do that because I don't do drugs. I just drink and that's it.
Yeah.
I
how
would
do you
have to
stay
agree
up
with you.
all night then?
I mean, I went through a phase where I was doing that in Shanghai, and I'll just add that to the list. Shanghai was an incredible place to party for a good 5 years. I think it's still a good place to party. They definitely got rid of all the drugs, but there was this club called Bar Rouge, actually not Bar Rouge. One place called Hollywood. What was the other? There was a spot that only opened at 3 a.m. and then it would close at around 11 a.m. the following morning. And so I did have a lot of nights walking out of that
It's
spot.
so
and
long to pregame.
Yeah.
That window's too big.
It was so much fun, and this was kind of right after college for me. And I would walk out, the sun would already be up, and I would be like, "Oh, wow, that was awesome." And then I would maybe
You're
like
nocturnal. At
I would
that
try to
point.
sleep for 4 hours and then get back on the horse. But now, I think it was probably after I turned 30. Like now, whenever I'm out partying and I start to see the sunrise, I just get like this ball of anxiety inside me that I'm like, oh no, I've just screwed over the next like 4 days of my life.
Yeah.
Because it takes you a while to recover from that. But I used to love pulling all-nighters.
I have an alarm set for whenever I'm drinking now, 12:30, and I'm done, no matter what.
Oh my god.
I'm just fucking done. Because
I'm not
I'm
that-
so old that I'll get a hangover forever.
Yeah.
But
I could
I'm
do
legit like
5
almost
a.m.
double your age, too.
Yeah. I could do 5, but not like. There's been some times where I've done like till 7 if I'm like having a great time, but like, no, I don't know.
It depends where
5
you
is
are
like-
too. Like in New York, it's easy.
Like how Ella's like
it's
acting like
easy
she calms
to
it down
lose.
because she's like 7 a.m. That's it.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, she's really disciplined.
yeah, I mean,
I've calmed down.
in
7 a.m.
Chicago, I don't think there is a single
Yeah,
place where you
here
can
it's
party till
not.
7 a.m. I know there are some bars open till 5, but I don't think
Yeah.
we have any 7 a.m. bars here.
But like when I'm in Miami, if we're like seeing, like if you go to like Space,
Yeah,
then you're up late. Or when we were in Europe, like we went to Ibiza. Sometimes like if you're seeing a DJ, they won't come on until 5 a.m. So then you have to stay up because you paid the money to see them, and they're not on till 5, and
Yeah.
you really want to see them. So then that's what's also really annoying.
Miami's on South American time because
Yeah.
if you go to Buenos Aires or probably Rio de Janeiro, people will go out to eat at 10. They won't actually hit the clubs until 2, and then they'll leave around 5 to 7 a.m.
That makes me feel miserable. Just thinking about staying up that late, that makes me so tired feeling.
If like everyone else though is doing it, like if
Yeah.
it's just part of the culture, I don't know. I'm sure they
could do
make it
it.
work.
If I didn't have a job too, I could totally do it.
Yeah.
Like in college when I didn't go to class, we would stay out till 7 a.m. We would go to afters, and it was totally fine. But here,
Where'd you go to college?
IU,
And they had afters at the bar, or you mean afters just
we
at a
would
friend's
just
place?
do afters.
Okay, yeah, afters are fun.
Yeah,
for-
but now, like, if we were like, let's stay up till 9 a.m., I'd be like, guys, I can't do that because then I'm thrown off the whole week.
I just
Yeah.
don't like to sleep through the following day because it's the
Yeah.
worst. Say if it's a beautiful day outside, and you go to bed at 6 a.m. and you sleep till 4:30 or 5 p.m.
Yeah.
and then like you wake up and you see the sun like
Yeah.
slowly going down. You're like, okay,
The best is waking up on a Sunday to see that it's raining, and you're like, oh, yes.
yeah, those are the days you don't mind just sleeping through.
Yep.
Can I think of any other party spots or?
I
sure.
want to go to Germany, though.
Yeah. Germany's sweet.
I am German.
Yeah.
I've never
Yeah.
been.
It's beautiful too.
Aren't they? Don't they have like cool? They're known for their cars too, like Munich or something.
Well, they make the Volkswagen. They
And
make
Mercedes.
a BMW, right?
Yeah, Mercedes.
A Mercedes, yeah.
Because I think some of the guys went there to like
Volvo.
test drive like race cars in Munich or something when we were abroad.
Probably the Autobahn's there so you can drive crazy fast.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
I don't think there's a speed limit. I'm sure we'll touch upon additional party spots in
Yeah.
a future episode. So thanks for coming on, Ella.
Thanks, guys.